just see. Okay, yeah, definitely
I'd
one of the
also
more.
say,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I would also like to preface that like I haven't done like a actual system design, so I'm pretty beginner to this stuff.
Okay,
Um,
no
yeah,
problem.
try to give me pointers like maybe at the end feedback on what I should like users that I can look into and whatever.
Yeah,
But
is
overall for
this like
now,
okay for the system design part? Like, how deep are we
yeah.
gonna go? Like, for example, are you talking about actual
Mhm.
components of the system? Like, are we connecting components together, or are we talking high level? Here are the components. Here's some stuff we might do. Here's some things that we might consider. Like, how detailed are we getting with the systems? Are you thinking? Is this intern level or is this
Mm,
full time?
this intern, this
Okay.
intern. Uh, I yeah, I don't know. I think
Was your guy drawing stuff, or is he, or are they just talking about it, writing it down, or are they drawing?
they just said like write it down in like the
Okay.
coder pad with
Okay.
the
Okay. Okay.
comments or whatever.
Okay. 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 We can do that. So yeah, very very interesting mix. All right. Anyways, okay, let's
Mhm.
well, why don't we just get to it? Let's just get started and just kind of play over here, see how it is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Hold on. Just fill out my doc again. I got my preparation here. Hold up. Okay.
Is this the last session you have for the day?
This is the yeah for I usually only do one mock a week now, and then
Oh,
after that I
okay.
do like half hour of like a resume review. But what I've also been
Okay.
doing is I've been doing I'm like a mentor for a couple servers, including like TCN Boba Talks. So I'm a Boba Talk mentor, which means that people book time with me in the morning as well. So I had a couple
Okay.
sessions this morning.
I see. Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right, so yeah, this is gonna be this is gonna be interesting. Pretty interesting format here. Okay, so just to kind of summarize what's going on, we're gonna have a 1 hour mock interview. Okay, 1 hour mock interview. It's gonna be we're gonna try to aim to spend 45 to 50 minutes on the actual interview, and we'll do 10 to 15 minutes at the end on feedback, depending on how much feedback there is, depending on how we feel. Okay.
Mm.
The format I'm gonna go based on what you're saying here. So we're gonna have a half and half system design and a bit of object oriented design slash low level design. We're gonna start off high level, so we're gonna start off with a bit of a system design portion. We'll keep it relatively high level, so we won't go into too much detail about every component. But then as we kind of get a bigger and better picture of what's going on, then I might kind of go in and dive deeper into one of the components and kind of go from there. Okay, how's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. So we're in the coder pad. We'll just do some comments now. So we won't be actually writing any code for the time being. By the way, there's also like a drawing mode. We can go to drawing mode if you prefer that as well. But
Okay. Okay.
okay, so the problem that we're gonna be working on today is we're gonna be designing a car rental system. Okay, so yeah, feel free to take notes. Yeah, I'll have you right. So this can be so we're gonna make some software that represents a car rental system. Okay, and so we're gonna be like a system provider to other car rental companies. So for example, just to throw names out there. So for example, Hertz might be our customer, Enterprise
Mm.
might be our customer, maybe some corporate booking services they might be our customer. So we provide the platform which they're on. Right? Does that make sense so far?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so
Uh,
that's the high level idea was that we're going to be the car rental system provider for these companies, and we want to basically serve as a liaison between their customers and the rental company. Okay, so there's a couple designs. There's a couple requirements that we need for this problem. The first one is that we need to support different types of vehicles, right?
mhm.
So for example, we're gonna have like cars, we're gonna have like trucks, we're gonna have like buses, right? Sometimes they might have like a bus kind of thing going on. So there's gonna be different types of vehicles. Okay,
Mhm.
we're gonna need to know the locations of these vehicles, right? So for example, so we need the location in terms of, for example, are they parked at this address? Are they at this and this position? Maybe they're like a Evo rideshare, for example. They could be anywhere, right?
Okay.
So we're going to be providing the locations, and of course we'll need to know the depending on the situation, we might need to know also the destinations, right? So
Okay.
for example, if it's like a ride share, we need to keep track of the cars, right? We got to keep
Oh,
like we got to keep track of, oh, this person left the Evo over there. We need to know that the Evo's over there, for example. But that's optional. So not all vehicles will be tracking the like locations of. Some of them are just rented out by the day or by time, and they come back to the original location. Other ones they're kind of a more ad hoc. Does that make sense?
okay. So, can I ask like a clarifying
For
question?
sure, yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying that some of the vehicles will just be like at a certain branch, that would be the location of the vehicle. Others would
Yeah.
be like rented out like a Evo where they would not necessarily be parked at a branch, but parked somewhere in, let's say, a city, and then we need to keep track of the information for that one.
Yes, yes. So there's different types of
Okay.
these services,
Yeah.
right? So some of them, like I said, Hertz and Enterprise, I think they only offer the first type, which is they're like based at a branch, right?
Yeah.
And then the other type are the rideshare kind of things where you can, they could be anywhere and they could end up anywhere, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, that makes sense. And then there's some other information that the system's gonna need to be able to provide. Like for example, we gotta keep track of members. So we'll have the memberships of
Mm-hmm.
of these users, and we'll need to know. For example, they could book a vehicle. So the member booked a vehicle. We gotta keep track of that. We gotta reserve that vehicle at that time. We can't lease that vehicle out for whatever reason. So we gotta have these vehicles available for booking. And then lastly, we'll have a payment processor.
Okay.
Okay, payment processor,
Okay.
and this is for example, they can book on the spot, or if they reserve ahead of time, then we got to process their payment ahead of time. And if they cancel the booking, then we're gonna refund their payment. So there's a bit of a
Okay.
payment aspect to this as well.
And book immediately or reserve ahead of time. Okay. Um, let's say like if a customer they book a vehicle ahead of time, they would have to pay, and then the do they also have to like have some sort of rent the vehicle out on the day of that they actually booked it for?
Say it again.
Like let's say customer they book a vehicle ahead of time,
Yeah.
and then the day of for their booking, they have to like they have to rent out the vehicle. But for example, another client books immediately. Does that account for? I think what I'm saying is like, is booking different than renting out?
Yeah, they're different. I mean, if you book it, the vehicle is reserved for you at that time.
Hmm.
And then, well, if you're booking, I mean, it depends on how to find renting out. Like booking is a form of renting, I guess. But
Hmm.
so there's two kinds, right? There's the reserved
Okay, yeah.
booking, where the vehicle is reserved for you, and you can cancel ahead of time to get a reservation back. And the other type is
Okay,
you just see whatever vehicles are available, you pick the one you want, and you book that right now.
okay. Sounds good. I'll just differentiate the two then. So as in like rent is where you actually physically are using the vehicle, and then book is you have to make a reservation either ahead of
Sure.
time or whatever. Okay, sounds good. So design a car rental system. Um, could you clarify what Hertz is? I haven't heard of it.
It doesn't.
I'm
If
not
you,
too
I mean, if you
familiar.
know enterprise, it's the same thing. It's just a car rental
Oh,
company,
okay.
but
Okay,
we're
okay.
but we're not Hertz, right? We're not a rental
Yeah,
company.
yeah,
We're the service
yeah.
provider. Yeah.
Okay. So we're creating kind of a platform for a car rental service to be able to rent out their vehicles that they have. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. And let's see. Will okay. I guess we can also expect that multiple different um actually yeah. Let's see. How should it What I'm thinking immediately right now is that mm, how should I approach this? I I have another let's think. I'm also assuming that the the customers of these companies that will be using the car rental service has to be a member before they book a vehicle, correct?
For book, yes, yes.
Okay, okay. So let me just write out some things. I have some constraints that we need edge cases. We can just say for constraints that customers must be a member to book a vehicle. Let's see what else. Once a vehicle's been booked, it'll be immediately taken off the, I guess, booking sites so that that license plate or that vehicle won't be able to be booked. Can a customer cancel their booking?
Yeah, so if they cancel the booking, they get a refund.
Okay, okay. So I'm
And
gonna
just to
do.
clarify here, the customer they can book a vehicle in a future
Mhm.
date, right?
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily off the website.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if I book it from 4 to 6, someone else can still
Mhm.
book from 2 to 4.
Okay, okay, okay. So there is like a time thing that
Yeah,
we'll have to consider. Okay, okay. So we can take the if they book it from 4 to 6, we'll take the 4 to 6 out of the equation basically.
yeah.
Okay. So the other thing was customers can what was that thing again? Um, customers can delete the reservation or their booking, get a refund. Okay. Let's see. Um, hmm. Okay, and hmm, let's see. So a customer can make a account without booking any vehicles immediately. I'm assuming to rent a vehicle, the customer must have a booking for that vehicle, correct?
To rent a vehicle, you mean the immediate version?
Yeah, yeah.
They don't necessarily need. I mean, they would just book right now, which is equivalent to not having a booking. If that makes sense.
Okay, that's true. Okay, let's see. So then I guess in that case, a booking would still be needed before the rent can happen.
Yes, although we wouldn't necessarily need to expose that to the customer, right? Like the customer doesn't
Okay,
care if there's a booking
that's
object or
true.
not. They
Okay.
want the car right now.
Okay. And then let's see what else there is. So, meaning the location of the vehicle. Um, are we assuming that, I guess like, yeah, are we assuming all vehicles need to have a location? Because some of them are like differ between like a parked area and a branch, right?
All vehicles need a location in the sense that the let's say the ride sharing ones, it could be anywhere. So we need to know we need to communicate to the people where to pick it up. And
Mm-hmm.
then for the ones at a branch, we need to know which branch they're at. So we still need a location for those.
Okay, okay. So, and in terms of location, do we know exactly like the sort of input that we'll get? Is it like a latitude, longitude pair or?
You can decide how to encode that.
Okay, okay. Mm, let's do, I'm just going to write, let's just say location is a lat longitude pair. Lat long pair. And then it'll look something like, I don't exactly know how lats and longs, like the constraints are, but I know there's like negatives and positives. So let's just say the numbers can be anywhere between like 100 and then to 100 to 100, negative 100 to 100. And then so the first item will be a latitude, and then the second item will be a longitude. Does this make sense?
Yep.
Okay, okay, and then let's see. Mm, I'm thinking if we need to keep track of our members, book our vehicles. Okay. Payment processor. When we do the payment processing, is it gonna be, do we gotta choose how we gotta implement it, or is it maybe like a microservice such as like Stripe that we can, an API that we can call?
Yeah, it's an API that we can call, but you need to say how to
Okay,
call it.
okay, okay. So API to call. I'll just say API, external API. Okay. Okay, keeps track of our members, need the location of the vehicle. Let's see what else is there. Okay. Is there any like, I want to say non-functional requirements there are? Because these are like functional requirements.
Hmm.
Is there any specific non-functional requirements?
We won't have any for now, but we
Mhm.
might come back and add them in the future.
Okay, okay. Sounds good. All right, none for now. Okay, and then let's see what else. So there's, okay. So I'm just gonna right now get a list of some of the things that we might need to consider if it's a vehicle. If it's a vehicle, we'll probably need some sort of identification. Usually the easiest for this is a license plate. So I'm gonna write this down, license plate. And then let's see what else. I'm assuming we also need to keep track of like the model or like the brand of the car and also the model, correct?
Yeah, that'd be good to have. Yeah, that'd be good to have.
Okay. Brand and then model. Um, I'll just for a license plate, I'll do something like a string. Brand is probably a string as well. Model, a string. Let's see what else. In terms of the location, I'm thinking, yeah, we would need to have a current location of the car, whether that's at a branch or like just anywhere. My thoughts, my question right now is, do we need to have the branch as in like the branch name, or can the branch just be a latitude longitude pair?
Well, it could be either one, but there might. I mean, if you were a user, would you prefer to navigate to a branch via lat long pair, or would you prefer to navigate via something else?
I mean, I think it would make sense then if it was associated with a specific branch. Okay, okay. And then in that case, like I could see there's an extension that we can have. So vehicles an abstract class, and then we can for those certain types of I guess Evo cars that they have, they would just have their own latitude longitude, and then the other one would or the regular vehicles would just be attached to a branch, and then that would be their other their information of the location. So we can do let's do how do I classify these vehicles? Branch associated vehicles. I just say branch vehicles, and then it also has a branch name. I think that makes sense. Branch, yeah, branch name. It probably has a branch ID actually as well. On top of the stuff already here, this is going to be abstract class. And then branch ID. There's also going to be the branch name. And then for the vehicles that kind of can park anywhere, I'll just refer to them as Evo vehicles. If that's fine.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and then they'll have the location. So this is going to be a lat long pair. All right, what else do we need for vehicle, for storing the vehicle? As a consumer, if you're going to rent a vehicle, there are pricing requirements. Okay, so are we standardizing like a price for all the vehicles, or does it depend on the vehicle?
So the pricing for a you call for a rental would be based on the model and time, and
Okay,
then the pricing for a Evo would be based only on time.
okay. A pricing for a vehicle is based on the model and the time, and the pricing for Evo is based on the mm, time. Okay. The time, is that like the duration or like the duration like you rent it out for?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. So let's do. Are we letting the external API like deci decide how much is charged?
No, we'll be setting the rates.
Okay,
Wait,
okay.
sorry. What did you? Sorry, what's your question?
Uh, like what do you mean? Like,
Like how? Like I missed that. Like how would the external processor know how much to charge? What do you mean by that?
I was thinking like we would pass in parameters and then it would just do that like calculation on okay based on this model or whatever we have to
I see.
calculate
Yeah.
it.
No. We would need to do the calculation.
Okay, okay. Let's see. So, mm, where should I put this? I want to put this information somewhere. Let's do. I could put it in just vehicle, and then yeah, have the pricing be based on the model. Mm, let's do. Hmm. I'm thinking what is the best way to put our pricing information. For now, I'll just put it. Oh, I think it would be good in a booking. So That makes sense. So in a booking, when you book a vehicle, there's a vehicle and then there's a duration that you rent it out for. Okay, so that's another class that we kind of have to make. Let's keep track of where is the part where we can book vehicles. Okay, wait, I don't really see anything here that we can book a vehicle. I'm assuming another one of our like features that we want to implement is book a vehicle, correct?
Yeah,
Okay,
that would be part of the API for the client.
API for the client.
Yeah,
Okay,
so the members
right,
would need to be able to book a vehicle.
right. Okay, so I'll just put it. I'll, I'll put it here then, and then in that there's a booking, let's say, and then in that booking we'll need the vehicle, we'll need the duration, and then in terms of duration, you mentioned there was like specific hours that you can rent it out for. There's also like days. Is there like a minimum and maximum duration that a car could be rented out for?
No, no.
Okay,
Let's just keep it simple.
okay, sounds good. So booking, no min max, and then the duration. You mentioned since there's a differentiation between hours, uh, and like days, I'll just if a customer is booking in terms of days, I'll just translate that into hours just because I think it's more simple. Um, it's more standardized too. And then if they're only booking for like 30 minutes, I want to do, I guess you can just round it to an hour if that's fine.
Sure. Yeah, that's sure.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
could run it to an hour.
Okay, sure. In hours. Okay. And then let's see. Mm, let's do, what else do we need when we're booking? There is a model, we can access that through the vehicle. The vehicle, this will be a license plate because it needs to be a unique identifier for the vehicle. Mm, okay. Is there anything else we would need for booking? There is probably a number, a base rates. Um, okay, there's usually a base rate and then yeah, when you book a vehicle, there's usually a base rate and then based on whatever the model and then the time. In this case, do you just want to do it as a base rate is consistent against across the entire system? And you also mentioned like there's a model and time, right?
Yeah, the pricing will depend on the model and time.
Okay. And then I don't know if I'm digging too deep, but for the model, is it like if it's associated with this model, it'll cost $10. If it's associated with this model, this other model, it'll cost $5. And then the time is like, let's say 1 kilometer per hour, or not, sorry, $1 per hour. And then so 10 plus however many hours you rented it out for. Is it going to be something like that, or?
It would be the rate is based the rate is based on the model.
Okay. So base rate will be based on the model. Okay, that makes more sense. I should probably write that down somewhere. Let's do um, pricing. That's right here. Pricing for a vehicle. Base rate is based on the model, and then the duration is a variable cost. Okay. All right. And then let's see. Is there anything else that we might need for booking? Okay. I don't think there is. All right. So kind of backtracking to who will be using this service. I'm assuming it's mainly like the clerk behind the counter for the company, not the customers that actually want to rent the vehicles out themselves. They will not be touching the interface for this, right?
Yeah, so we can assume for now that the main user is like the receptionist.
Okay, makes sense. Let's do receptionist. Okay, and then in that case, then we probably also need to keep track of the member for the booking. So let's just do member ID. Let's see what else. Okay, and then we can also let's do. There's probably a sign up feature for a member. Sign up as a member. Let's do. Okay, for a member, there is a member ID. I'm just gonna keep it simple for now. I know there's a bunch of metadata that you can add, like email, username, or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
Let's just do member ID and then member name. There's like address and usually that stuff.
That's fine.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. We can keep it
okay,
simple. That's fine.
okay, sounds good. All right, and then what else? So, all right, and then need the location of the vehicle. Can we assume that the location of the vehicle, let's say there's like a tracker device within all the vehicles that at least are for the Evos, there's a
Yeah,
tracker
sure. Yeah, we
device.
can assume that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. And then if it's part of a branch, then we'll have to return. Yeah, is there like a return vehicle function or like feature that we'll have to? Yeah, I think there should be since it's a car renting service. Let's do. There's a book a vehicle. There's also, I guess, rent a vehicle out. I'm just gonna do a booking ID here because I could technically use this as the identifier, like a license plate, member ID, and the duration. But I think if we want to access that to find a to be able to rent out the vehicle the day of, rent a vehicle, then booking ID just is way easier. Booking ID, and then it would have most of the information. Booking ID, and then I guess that's it. Yeah, for now. And then let's do also return a vehicle. Return a vehicle. There is also a booking ID, and then actually, do we want to keep track of the rental? Let's say a vehicle is currently used while it's like, yeah, while it's being rented out. I could make something like a rent ID that return a vehicle because then in this case, what I'm missing if I only use booking ID, what I'm missing is like a currently rented out flag or something. I think it would be efficient, or it would make sense to have some sort of rental ID, mainly because I think, yeah, when you're returning the vehicle, then there should be some way to distinguish between booking ID and like a booked vehicle and a rented out vehicle. So I'm gonna also keep rental ID in here.
Sorry, could you just explain
All
again
right.
what the difference between the two are?
Yeah, like why I decided to add a
Yeah,
rental ID.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, did you want me to explain it again?
yeah,
Or?
yeah, yeah. What's the like? What can you do? Is it a difference in like what the functionality is,
Mhm.
or is it a convenience thing?
I think it's like a convenience thing because, for example, if you have a booking, you can't really tell the if a vehicle is booked or if it's booked and currently being used. So that's why rental ID is like a rental. You can call it a rental, yeah, I guess, is created when a booking ID turns into a rented vehicle. Does that make sense?
Okay, okay.
Okay. Sounds good. And then let's see. When we return a vehicle, I'm assuming that time also matters. The current time, current or end, let's call it end time. And then in this case, there's an edge case that I do want to consider. What happens if a vehicle is returned past its duration that it was rented for?
So so we can follow up on that case later. But for now, let's just
Okay.
we'll stay on the happy case.
Okay. Like, well, happy case as in we assume.
Everyone is perfect.
Okay, okay. Uh, yeah, I'll just write this down for something that we may consider later.
Okay.
Vehicle can be vehicle can be rented or can be returned after duration. Is there any other constraints, edge cases that we might have? Mm, let's see. Mm, I'm assuming also, okay, the duration, we probably also need a date because the duration is only the number of days we need a start date or start time, I guess, start time. And then for start time, I'll put this in, I'm deciding because we need the date and we also need the exact time. If it's like an hour, let's do, we'll do like month, day, day, year, and then the time, like in 0000 hours, something like that. Yeah, and it'll be in 24-hour time. Okay. Mm, is there any other high level things? Okay. Mm, what's the most important in this? Okay. All right. I can't really tell like right now. Am I supposed to be thinking more systems design where I can think about how the data or yeah, how the client will be interacting with
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
the
this is
database
also a
now?
question for you, like how you wanted to take
Yeah,
this based on what you're saying. But what I would
yeah.
recommend is, I would recommend us walk through an example of like a full example with your current,
Okay,
let's say, client. Let's say.
okay, okay. Yeah, for now then, let's go into drawing mode. That might help
Okay.
to visualize what would happen if a client would rent a vehicle, etc. Okay, so let's do. I've never used this thing before. Um, there you go. Okay, sorry, my drawing skills are not A plus. Let's do client here. I'll just call it, or the customer. They want to rent a vehicle,
Okay.
and then I'll call this the receptionist with the computer. So then we'll zoom out a bit, and then we'll need some server, which is, so this is the customer, I guess. We need some server where basically our rental system will be in. Let's call this server. Is there
You
like
can
a
use you
typing
can use the
thing?
text box option, which should be 8.
Oh, okay, perfect. Server. Okay, thank you.
Oh, do I have to make? Do I have to move it? No.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Okay, sounds good. And then, all right. So our functional requirements, I'm just starting top from bottom. So our server needs to support different types of vehicles. We can assume we have that in some sort of database then. And then I'm gonna draw a database. Database. The biggest thing for this database is, I guess, considering what we, if we want to use it as SQL or NoSQL, I'm thinking it's important to have it as SQL because SQL prioritizes the correctness of the data and if there's any like relations within it. So in this case, there's relations between the vehicle, the booking, I guess the member. So that would be important. That's why I think like a SQL approach would be good for this database. Let's just draw that here, SQL over NoSQL. Um, is there like, yeah, how many customers can we expect to be using this a day by like the various different companies that are using our platform?
We can assume it's like 10,000 a day.
10,000 a day?
Yeah.
Okay. 10,000. I'll type this out here. It's so small. Uh, so 10,000 users a day. Users a day. Is this 10,000 users or 10,000 bookings?
10,000 active users. So per day, that means that's about 10,000 bookings. Let's say
10,000 bookings? Okay.
per day. Yeah.
Um, per day, and then okay. And with this information, what we want to do is keep track of how many our SQL systems can handle. or our database systems can handle. So over a year, that's like 365 days. That'll approximately be 300, 3 million, 3 million bookings a year. Um, I guess another constraint would be how long can bookings be booked ahead of time. We probably don't want to keep bookings. We probably don't want to like let people book for vehicles 10 years ahead of their time just because I
Yeah,
think
definitely not. Definitely not
yeah,
10 years. I mean, what's like, I don't know, reasonable. Let's say 1 year. Is that reasonable, I guess?
one yeah, I'd say 1 year is reasonable. Okay,
Okay,
1 year
okay, let's
is
say 1 year.
1 year booking ahead
Yeah,
of
1 year at
time
a time.
max max booking ahead of time. Okay, that makes sense. All right, and then let's see. All right, so we don't, I guess, need to expect more than 3 million bookings per year. In this case, let's say a booking would have, let's just, right now I'm thinking how I should estimate how large a booking should be. Um, I don't want to just randomly guess. So let's look at what we've identified here in a booking. A booking needs a booking ID, which has the information about a booking ID is just an integer actually. Here's license plate of the vehicle, the start time, duration, and member. Let's just say, okay, if this was 1 byte for, all right, it would definitely be more than 1 byte. Let's just say 1 megabyte for every attribute here. Then that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just say, is it fair to assume that a booking is, let's say, 10 megabytes?
I think that's a bit big. I think a attribute is
Yeah.
probably a bit less than that. How many properties do you have in a booking?
We have booking ID, license plate, start time, duration, and member ID. So five.
Right. I would so like and what types are they?
Booking ID is an integer. License plate is going to be a string. Start
Right.
time is going to be.
Right. Integers. That's 8 bytes.
Mhm.
Right. 64 bits, eight
Yeah.
bytes. Let's say. Right. A string. And how
Yeah.
long can your strings be? Let's not get too fussed up on that. String. A reasonable size string. Let's say it could be 1 kilobyte. And then
Okay.
the rest of your properties are numbers. It looks like IDs and times.
Yeah.
So we can say that each object is 1 kilobyte.
1 kilobyte. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Just 1 kilobyte is 1,000 bytes. Okay. That's then in this case, 3 million kilobytes would be 3,000 megabytes, 3 gigabytes. Okay, so we're holding 3 gigabytes for our bookings. All right. And how many members can we assume are existing? Do we know that?
Uh, yeah, we have members. We can say we have 1 million members.
1 million members. Okay.
Yeah, let's just say there's
And
no new
then
members. Let's just keep it simple.
okay, no new members. 1 million members. Each member, if we do a similar assumption, the member I have member ID, member name. Obviously, there's a few more information for metadata, but let's also keep it. We can also call it 1 kilobyte then. So 1 million, 1 gigabytes for members. All right. Do we know? Okay. Uh, hmm. Let's see what else we need to understand about our database. There is also vehicles. How many vehicles can we expect to be, not necessarily, I guess, at one location, or sorry, at one like company? How many vehicles can we expect to be stored across all the different companies that are using our platform?
We can assume it's like 20,000.
20,000. Okay, 20,000. Each vehicle has, we have license plate, brand, model. That's, I guess we can also say 1 kilobyte, 20,000. That's 20 megabytes. Okay. 20 megabytes of the vehicle. Alright, let's do, what else? Do we need to, alright. I'm gonna go back to the process then. Let's just enlarge this again. Okay, so we have our customer. Our customer is able to, our server, our database keeps track of the different vehicles that we have. We have 20 megabytes of storage for that. We need the location of the vehicle. That might be a little, I guess that's part of the abstract class for the vehicle. Or sorry, not the abstract class, the extended classes, the subclasses. Then we also have to keep track of our members. We do that. So okay, so the first process we need to do is what happens when the members sign up. So customer talks to receptionist, and then the receptionist makes let's say this would be a post request, creates member. Our server then, so yeah, entering the details onto our platform. Our platform, which is the server, will then write to this database. In this case, I'm thinking, is this database going to be more read or write heavy? If we're creating members, I guess that's created once. We're accessing the members later on. We're creating a booking too. I would say it's equally read heavy as well as equally write heavy. We're not going to be accessing our bookings that frequently. We're kind of just creating a booking and then, accessing when we rent it out, creating a rental ID, and then accessing that when we return it. There isn't too much that we have to read in this case. Yeah.
So you're saying it's
So,
about equal. So if I heard that right, you said it's about equal.
yeah, like
Okay.
the amount of reads that we'll be doing is the same as the amount of writes that we'll be doing.
Okay.
In this case, yeah, because we'll be creating a booking ID that's writing to our database every single time. Okay. There may be a slightly more if, like, let's say one specific member likes to book a lot of times, but I think it's negligible. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. What else do we have? So once they book a vehicle, then that's writing to the database. Then they can come back another time. We start back at the consumer again. So we'll be renting the vehicle, and then the receptionist types that into the server. We have to retrieve. So would you like me to clarify like what these arrows are for, or
No, it's fine for now. For the purpose of time,
okay.
we can just move on from that. That's fine.
Okay, sure. And then they have to retrieve the booking ID from the database, check to see if it exists. If it exists, then they'll send that to, I guess on the UI it'll say booking found, you can rent the vehicle out. Once they rent it out, then it'll talk back to the database again. So talk back to the database, and then so create the rental, and then when the customer returns, then it'll retrieve the rental ID, the booking ID as well, and then yeah, that's what will happen. Okay. I guess we also need to decide when we make a booking, now the pricing for the vehicle. So you mentioned that it was an external API. I'm just going to draw that here. API. So we have here, when we create a booking, well, our server does need to get the payment processing for it. So we calculate the pricing for the model. I'm trying to think. I guess there's a base rate that we can store with every vehicle. Yeah, I don't. I'm trying to think if I want to store the base rate in the vehicle class or have another, like, I don't know, like a kind of. I'm thinking like a key value pair on a specific, like another specific way to storing it. I think it'd be more efficient to just keep the base rate attached to the model, just because we can change that whenever. So I'm just gonna add it back in our vehicle with a base rate, and then that's just us as an integer. Okay, and then let's see what else. So yeah, so we're gonna calculate. When we create the booking, we're gonna check if that vehicle is available. If that vehicle is available, then we calculate the base rate from that on the duration, depending on whatever. then we make a call towards the API to process the transaction. In this case, how do we want to do it? Okay, so we want a, the receptionist to, once they make a booking, then that booking won't go through unless the payment goes through. I can assume that, correct?
The booking won't go through. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. And then once the API uh, returns, let's say um, how should I do this? So I guess like the client enters the credit card details, it goes to the server goes to the API, approves, comes back to the server, and then gives like a 200 signal saying, oh, payment transaction has been approved. Okay, that makes sense. And then, yeah. All right, so there are now also other things that we can consider about our uh, design. Is there, okay, if we're expecting, since we can speed this up in terms of reading our rentals, we know that our rentals will be read eventually if we create a rental and a booking. For booking, we don't know because they can cancel the booking. But
Yeah.
for a rental, we know that it will be read. If we want to maximize like speed and efficiency, then we can create some sort of cache here. And I think the data that would make the most sense being in here is the rentals, just because I mean, eventually the vehicle has to be returned. I think very, very rarely a vehicle wouldn't be returned. So we can have write, or not there should be like some sort of worker here. Reads the rentals created from the database, writes to the cache, and then you can first check for the rentals. I guess not first check, you just check the cache. Well, then in this case, I'm thinking, do we even need to write the rentals to database? I think maybe in this case, we can just write the rentals to cache, and that's all we need. Uh, yeah, so we probably don't even need this. Let's do this eraser. Okay. All right. Is there any other things that we can do to improve this? There is like, I don't want to just say like, okay, is for the throughput, is there like, if we're expecting 3 million bookings a year, that's, oh, the 10,000 bookings a day, maybe we can think about what our throughput per second is. So we have 10,000 bookings a day. That would be, there's approximately like 80,000 seconds in a year. Then that would be,
So
let's
say
just
that
call it
again.
100,000 seconds. There's approximately 80,000 seconds in a day.
Okay.
So then there's let's just say 100,000 seconds a year, or sorry, a day. Then that would be one booking, 0.1 booking per second. We'll do one booking per 10 seconds. Yeah, I feel like this doesn't, like, it's not that big of skill to require uh like a load balancer, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So we probably don't need to do that, but if we're, I guess, scaling to more and more companies to use our platform, that's something that we can consider for a load balancer. Is there anything else? Mm, I think for now, this looks good. I want to revisit our non-functional requirements.
Okay.
Um, is there any specific things that we want to look out for?
Nothing specific, but I want to ask you, given that
Okay.
you are now seeing that it is one booking per 10 seconds, would you change anything about the design?
Would I change anything about the design? One
I
booking
mean, is
every
that
10.
more or less frequent than you thought?
That's, I want to say less frequent
Okay.
because there are other scales that I've seen that are like 10,000 requests per second.
Yeah.
So one booking per second per 10 seconds doesn't seem like a lot.
Yeah. So the question stands: if knowing that it's 1 per 10 seconds, would you change anything?
Would I change anything about this design?
Yeah.
I think right now it should stand. I don't think I would change anything. No.
Okay. And then one more follow up before we wrap it up here. I wanted to ask is, you know, uh, this is a service which as a non-functional requirement, right? This is a service
Yeah.
which is not just operating in one city; it can operate over many countries. Let's say, right? So there
hmm
might be some like geographical discrepancies. Would you still only have one
Yeah.
database for the entire service?
If would I still have one database for the entire
Yeah,
service?
for the services all the different
It's
regions.
geographical.
Yeah.
I guess in that case, I think no, because specifically for cars at least, no one's really the car kind of like relatively stays in the same area, and so it's probably smarter to have some sort of database that's specific for like maybe the Western North America, Eastern North America, maybe one in Europe as well, one in South America. Some database that's like geographically separate, and then that way we don't have to have our like no one's gonna drive from North America to South America, for example. So we can kind of isolate our data a little more separately. Um, yeah, I don't know if I explained that correctly, but
I think you're on the right track. I think you're on the right track.
yeah,
Okay. Cool. Um, that's all I kind of had for this one. So I wanted to kind of come up to the follow up here and just do a little post game kind of discussion here.
for sure.
Um, definitely a unique format. I haven't I haven't done one of these weird combos before, but I'm
Yeah,
glad you kind of tried it out, played along. That was good.
yeah.
Before I kind of get into that, I want to ask you, like, how did you feel about the problem? Like, either about the difficulty, about the,
Mhm.
did you feel like you did well on the functional requirements, on non-functional? I want to hear a bit of your thoughts about how well you did today.
Right, right. I think overall, like, I guess on a high level, I did feel like I didn't really know when I first heard the problem. I just kept thinking OOT for some reason, and then I was like, wait, midway through, I was like, maybe I should think more about how it interacts with like the database and the whole workflow or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I would say I think I went decently into detail on the functional requirements. I asked the edge cases if there are any. I guess I also thought of the ways of representing the data, for example, in terms of like start time, hours. There's also like, the pricing for the base rate or whatever. I think I cleared up all of things that I asked clarifying questions in the right areas for that. In terms of the non-functional requirements, I feel like I should have been more, I guess, proactive on asking about scaling and how it maybe, yeah, like the geographical thing. I think that's something that I didn't think of about. If more of these platform or companies would be using our platform across the globe, that's something that I missed. But yeah, I think
Okay. Okay.
yeah, that's kind of my thoughts about it.
Cool. Yeah. Um, I think my verdict is relatively similar in that, I mean, we did spend a good amount of time on the functional requirements. We probably could have spent a bit more on the non-functional ones. The reason,
hmm
and you did ask halfway actually, what are some more non-functional ones? And the reason I didn't really add any was because it was low on time at that point, and so it didn't really make too
Yeah,
much sense to add more. What I will say though is, I think there's two things about this. The first one I'll be very careful saying, which is about the format. Now I don't really
yeah,
know what the correct way to do this format is, but I still think there's
yeah.
a couple things that we could have improved on. The
Sure.
first one was probably earlier on, more clarifying, and this is definitely more true for the real interview, by the way, is to
Yeah.
clarify what is the goal. Okay,
hmm
what are we doing? Are we gonna try to, for example, what you've done today would be very good if the goal was to design some database tables. Okay, like are we going to
mm
design some database tables? Then it makes sense to dive into what the attributes need to be. Then it makes sense to dive into that, right?
Yeah.
If otherwise, for example, the goal is to come up with the architecture diagram, then maybe we shouldn't spend so much time on the attributes. That wouldn't matter as much, right? So I think in the real interview, it's really important to basically clarify what is the goal, right? Now, sometimes
How do you like?
you have to read the room a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can just ask, what are we doing here? What are we trying to produce? What is a desirable outcome? Sometimes you gotta play a bit more slick, kind of go along with the flow, see what the interviewers are more interested in asking, right? So it's gonna depend,
Right.
but I would say that's the first thing you gotta clear up.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay, makes sense.
Did it cut you off there?
Yeah, I was just like thinking like how do you how do you bring it up in the interview to find out what their what the goal is, you know?
Well, so for this interview, it's actually a bit easier because the format is so unorthodox. You can say, hey, I heard the format of this interview is really unique. Could you tell me what is the end goal of the interview? What should we be looking to produce? So that could be like a like a in
Sales.
to kind of ask about that. But otherwise, sometimes they actually want you to kind of. Sometimes they don't really have a goal either. They want to keep it more flexible. So then you
Yeah.
gotta then you gotta play it by ear. So I don't have a good answer for that. Now some there are some things you can do during the interview, like during when you're actually doing the process that you can do as well. So for example, as you're going through the attributes, for example, you spend quite a bit of time there. You can say, hey, is this too detailed for our purposes here? Hey, do you want me to move? I can move on. We can
Mm.
assume this. We can just move on, right? So you can
Yeah.
always check in with the interviewer. That's never going to be a downside. Even if they say no, we don't want to move on. We want to do this. That's never a downside to check. So
That's true.
let's say we're doing the data model. Okay, let's check on that. Okay, great. Oh, now we're asking about non-functional. Oh, should we discuss that? Are you interested in discussing that further? All right, move on. Oh, should we discuss some of the constraints? Should we discuss the edge cases? You can always ask
Okay.
about that as you're doing it,
Right.
just to kind of like not to rush it along, but to ask. Oh, if you're not interested, we can just move along. Like we don't have to do this right now, right? So
Right.
have a
Okay.
lot more of those checkpoints with the interviewer.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That actually, like, I think that's a really good strategy.
Good. All right. So now I wanted to talk a little about the actual interview here. Okay, we only got 5 minutes left, but I wanted to spend a bit of time on this one. Okay. So look, I'm not gonna be here to nitpick because I know there's a lot of stuff going on, but like a real interviewer would nitpick. Like they would notice these things. Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'll bring it up for your good.
yeah.
Um, couple things. Let me just look at my notes. So, overall, good clarification of the problem. There were some gaps in the notes with regards to the refund of the booking and the time of the booking. So those are two things that I definitely did say at the beginning, but you kind of missed the notes. So I would just ask you to, hey, if you didn't even know you missed it, then like yeah, be more careful about that. If you knew you
Hmm.
missed it, but you're just asking for clarification, you might want to say that. Say, oh, hey, I knew you talked about the booking and the refunds. Can you just elaborate a bit on that? How would that work in this case, etc. So a little bit of
Yeah,
gap in the notes, but overall that was still pretty good. Um,
yeah.
at the beginning, not near the beginning, you also had the decision to have lat lawns for all of the vehicles, which you later retroactively said for the rentals, it's better to have. I think for the non-evos, it's better to have as an address. What did you actually end up having? A branch name, which is
I
basically
just
an
had like
address.
branch ID. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that's definitely like a functional requirements kind of thing, right? So again, if we don't care, if we're looking more at the architecture, we shouldn't be spending time on that, right?
Right.
So just keep that in mind. And I'll say this is a general thing. Whenever you're looking at this sort of design, always start from the user perspective, right? Like what is the user interface? Like for example, I am a receptionist. I want to have these functionality, right? Oh, maybe I'm a member. I want to be able to look at my bookings. What is my functionality? Maybe I'm the manager of a branch. I want to look at this and this. So when you're starting, I would say start with the persona, start with the user types, right? Who are the people using the system? And that would help you inform what APIs you need to design, right? You kind of did it backwards over here, which is you started with, okay, well, what are some common objects that we must have? Okay, and then who
Yeah.
needs to interact with these objects? So you kind of worked on it backwards, which can also work, but that can
Yeah.
have gaps in your design.
Right.
So
Makes sense.
start with the user interface. That way you can't miss it. Or if you miss it, then it's just a skill issue, right? So start with the users. I think that's a general tip.
Hmm.
One nit here: don't use license plates as IDs. Why is that? This is a general. This is a general, like a point, which is you want your IDs to be controlled by you. You don't want anybody else to control the IDs. So you can have the license
Oh,
plate as like an external identifier, but for your database, like for your primary key, you want to make sure that is always controlled by you. So
right.
we didn't get into
I
that,
gotcha.
but you just keep that in mind. That's going to be a red flag. Um, good abstract classes, good concrete classes. That makes sense. Blah blah. Rental ID was a bit weird. You could definitely augmented booking ID for that one, but that's
Hmm.
whatever. Good edge case for the late rentals. In this case, we don't have time for it, as you can see, but that's a good call out. Oh, times. Always use Unix time. Do not use if you're using something that's not Unix time. It's just wrong. There's no other way to say it. For
Okay.
example, for you, you do. Where's your time zone? You have no time zone, so that's
Um,
just wrong. Justification for SQL was a bit weird. I think if you're not too sure about the justification, just say so. What you said was a bit off, I think. So
Okay.
I would if you're not confident, maybe just keep it in. Last bit here, I'd say okay. Same with the 1 MB per attribute. I think is a bit crazy. Again, I think that's a bit just CS fundamentals. Kind of brush up on that a little bit. Okay, so the last bit is what I kind of followed up on, which is about the geography, right? So when you're talking about these services, and this is not a regional service, this is going to be a global service in theory, right? So that's something what you're going to ask, right? So for example, in this case, that's not going to be too many points off because, like I said, we don't really have any non-function requirements, but that's good to ask, right? Like especially when you're going to have
Right.
when you draw a little diagram, you want to elaborate. Oh, this is just going to be for this region, for example, or whatever it may be. So you want to clarify that a little bit, brush up on that because that's a very common follow up. For example, I'll give you a common follow up is, hey, what if I'm a tourist? I'm trying to book in Vancouver, but I'm living in London, right? And I want to book a car for rental in Vancouver. So how do I use the Vancouver server, for example, in this case, right? And then as a more advanced follow up, you would be asked about race conditions, right? So what if two guys, like one guy who's from Vancouver and one guy's from London, they're trying to be, or that's that I mean like that's not necessary. Like two guys are trying to book the same car at the same time, right? Like what happens then? And you want to be very clear in communicating what the expected outcome is, how you would handle that, etc. Right? So when
Yeah.
you're not considering these like geography kind of problems, or you're not considering a bit more scale, even if the scale is not volume, right? They're not necessarily correlated, right? They often are, but
Right.
they're not necessarily correlated, right? So just be aware of that. There's
Yeah.
different types of scale there, okay?
I
And then
understand.
lastly, the reason I asked if you would revisit the design is because um, one one request per 10 seconds does not require a cache. So you're spending money there for no
Mm,
reason. So just be aware of that.
I I see. Okay, makes sense. Sounds good.
Okay, that's all the stuff I
What's like
had.
a
Do you have any? Sorry, go ahead.
yeah? I was like, what's like a good measurement to say like, oh, we need a cache.
You need a cache if for a couple reasons. If you have very high read and write volume for a small subset of your data, then you need a cache. Okay,
Mm,
right? Like the reason you have a cache is because the database doesn't have enough throughput for you, right? But the issue with the
right.
cache is that it's much more expensive than a database per
That's
like
true.
amount of data, right? And so,
Mm,
you're saying, okay, well, it's still, if we're only writing to a couple things, for example, in this case, we might say there might be a couple cars that are hot spots, right? They may be very popular cars, and this is not in this problem. I'm just making stuff up, right? For example, we have a
yeah.
discount right now. We want to encourage people to rent certain cars. Then we might want to cache the bookings for those cars, right? Or another one is we might have recent bookings that are coming up soon. We might put those in the cache, right? So it's a bit more
Right.
performant when we're checking in, let's say, whatever it may be, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the downside, of course, is more expensive. And so if you don't have performance requirements, which is this case, we don't need a cache. Or if you have performance requirements, but it's the read and write is evenly distributed in the database, a cache wouldn't help you because you would just have a cache miss every time anyways. So,
Mm,
yeah. So there's some considerations for you about caches.
okay. 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 Sounds good. Um.
Cool. Anything else? Last minute.
Uh. I can't think of anything right now, but I do know I do have some follow-ups, but I know you're busy, so I'll send it to just on text later.
Okay, sounds good. I'll send you the notes, and you can have a read over that. All right.
Perfect. Thank you.
Take care. All right. All right. All right. All right. That was very unique format. I haven't done one of those half and half things, so that was cool. All right. So, uh, we're doing resume reviews now. Let me get the links going. Where's my link? Boom. Boom. Unable to pin. Nice. See, okay. We've got in the chat here. what Discord channel do you join? You can join either one. I mean, they're different Discord servers. I primarily do the mock interviews and like I advertise them on Tech Career North because I'm a moderator there. But I've been trying to advertise it on I'm trying to advertise it on Boba Talks as well. It doesn't really matter which one you join. I use the booking form, which is how you actually book with me. All right. Okay, let me see. All right, so we got a couple already actually. So actually we won't take a break. We'll just get into it. We'll just get straight into it. All right. Okay, this guy says, hold on, am I overlapping here? I am. Okay, go over here. All right, this guy says, third year, looking for internship, web dev, full stack, big tech. Wondering if I should move my student org position under projects or make a leadership section for them. Okay, also looking for feedback on my bullets for my IBM position. Anything you think would be rewritten or any general nitpicks, glaring problems. Nitpicks / glaring problem. That's kind of the entire spectrum, isn't it? Let's pick a color. What I'm feeling like a yellow today. Yellow on white. That's fucking stupid. There you go. Okay, student position. Where's that? Oh, here. Wait, where's your student position? Google developer group. Create website. Projects. I can't tell what the hell you're talking about. Where is it? Anyways, IBM. Bullets on IBM. All right, bullets on IBM. First of all, let me just tell you like what's going on here. 2027. 3 presidents. Uh-oh. Some dates over here. Spark Park. Okay, good names. I like it. SQL, Postgres, React Native, no Ruby on Rails, MongoDB, Kubernetes. Okay, okay, good tech. 20 authors. Author Workbench. I don't know what authors are. I'll probably just use the word users just to keep it more standardized. How much bolding? I think the bolding is okay. I would say if anything is a bit on the too much side, but it's okay for now. It's okay. Blah blah. Learning lesson. Okay. Automating 1,000 plus PDFs and PowerPoint files into LMS 3D course content. Okay. Streamline migration. Okay, I like that. I would say Streamline is a bit of a it's a bit loosey goosey. If you can say like exactly how much time this saved or how much effort this saved, that would be a bit better. And you're still present, so you could maybe do something about that. Automated for an hour course translation, Whisper, okay, that's fine. The points are fine. Website internal, I'm just following React.js. Developed internal job application portal. 10 directors. 100 plus applications Suba base. Okay. 100 resumes, sort of REST API. Okay. I see. Yeah, I think this is probably better. I mean, I'm assuming this is the one you're talking about as your student thing. I would say this is probably better off as like student work. What's this? 20 developers for a product for startups and build terms or anything. I would say this is a bit too general. I would definitely like to see some specific products that you've done. If you're saying like the way I'm reading it right now is if because you're not saying any specific project, they're not very special or comprehensive. So I would say in general, maybe both these can go into like a student section. Gen A, Genesis, okay, hackathon, application management system, okay. Application management system, 20 plus review community members, 2,200 applications. Processing that shit, yeah. Okay. Next.js for 2 cloud usage. Where's this hosted? Firebase? Okay. Figma. Okay. These 3 all feel pretty air. They all feel pretty air. Specifically, we're here. So we built a website. This is like 8 months. This point is really similar to this point over here, right? So these 2 points are really similar. Yeah. I think there's a bit of overlap here. I think there's a bit of overlap here. You could probably put more in IBM, which is like a real experience here. Let me have a look at this. Online code executor. Okay. 10 languages. Docker. Django. Automated request from Ride API turning game data into clean training data. Display data. Statistic app. Okay. Brand native mobile app. Homeowners rent out their driveways as parking spots in Toronto. Create a payment pipeline. Express, Stripe, Firebase. Okay. This is good. I like this. I think this is a good one. This is fine. Okay. What's your comment? Okay. Web dev. Okay. Web dev. What was the web dev here? Next. React Native. Well, this is not web. Your entire web experience is Next.js. Just be aware that big companies don't use Next.js. That's all I'll say. Full stack. Okay, full stack. Node. What is this? Oh, Django. Okay, so JS, Python. What is this? Oh, this is the entire backend. Okay, like this is the backend. Okay. Firebase, Supabase. What is this? Ruby on Rails and Node.js. Okay. I think for employability, you need like a real backend. And I don't mean real as like to denigrate your projects, but like let me be real with you. Firebase and Supabase are not skills. And currently with so you have Node over here and you have a Node over here. This is like your only backend experience. It's not that the node here is bad, it's just that you don't need to write good node to do this, right? So I'd say you're actually, like you have a lot of stuff in the resume, but you actually aren't communicating too many skills. So just be aware of that. I think you can improve the products there a bit more, or rephrase the points. But using the form, I'll assume a DM me. Yeah, I'll DM you once you're on, but I think the line is pretty long right now, so it might be a couple months for you to get in. Let me see. Yeah, probably be a while. Yeah, so I mean, if you don't ghost, I'll eventually get to you, but it will be a while. All right, let's go next one. Okay. This guy's comment: backend / full stack. Okay, very good comment. $25, $24, $24, $20, $20. What? What's your degree? Need dates there. Stop and tracker, hackathon project, bookshelf app, Chrome extension for email. What is this? For email workflow optimization and persistent task management. That's a bit vague, but okay. Dom, yeah, you need. I mean, I have a link. I'll put a link right there if I were you. Okay. What? Okay, saving time by creating a cross-platform validation platform with CLI GUI interfaces for CI/CD infrastructure pipeline. I don't understand this point. Like this, there's too much going on at this point. Okay, so you save time by developing a cross-platform validation platform. That so far makes sense. Or sorry, with interfaces makes sense. And then now you have this point over here, which I can only assume means that you had, like, I don't, like, what does this mean? Like, to me, this means, okay, you had this platform, right? And this platform is a validation platform for CI/CD infrastructure pipelines? Why does your pipeline need to scan barcodes? Like, this makes no sense. I don't understand this point. 80% code reduction, increased research, redesigning a legacy decoding analytics tool. Redesigning, I think, is carrying a lot of weight here. I would definitely clarify how you redesigned it. Improve barcode boundary detection robustness by enhancing machine vision geometric algorithms with error handling. I would again, it'll clarify this one. I mean, for me, I find it a bit unbelievable that you can add error handling, and that would increase the boundary detection robustness. Like, you know what I mean? Like, your points here aren't really cohesive. I'll skip that. Okay. Part of listings Django, Docker, Postgres. So for example, this point here is useless because you already have Docker and Postgres in this header. So this point communicates no information. Boost volunteer standard conversion rate with 1%. Okay, I can believe that. Reduce code review time and achieve 90% coverage. Set up for the team. Reduce code review time by using framework set up for the team. Okay, I can believe that as well. Say to clinicians 2 minutes per session. Blah 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 blah. Okay. Blah 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 blah. Okay, nice. I quite many what automation cross-platform automation framework. I like that. I think that's good. Okay. I think this is pretty cool. That makes sense. Okay. Like these are, like these products don't really do anything. Like, just make one product that's a lot better. I would say that's gonna help you a lot more than having 3 mediocre projects. I'll give you an example. So you're going full stack backend, right? So look, full stack backend. What's going on in the first project? What's a backend? There is no backend. Vite is your quote unquote backend. Like it's a Chrome extension, right? But you can still have Chrome extensions with a backend. For example, you can have some data tracking, aggregation. You can have persistent states, login, etc. So you can still have a backend for this kind of stuff, right? Like pick one of these projects, add a full backend for this kind of stuff. Bookshelf app is a Node Express. Pretty basic stuff here. You can expand on this one as well. You can expand on this one with full stack. You can add add some stuff here. I think like this is just a basic app, right? I think you can add a backend, add a front end, augment either side. What is this? What's the backend here? I don't see a backend, so that's your problem. This is a map UI with search bar filters toggle map. Okay, so this is also no backend. So you want backend, but you have 2 products here that have absolutely 0 backend. So that's a bit of a problem, right? So I would say that's an easy place to improve. All right, next. All right, this guy's comment. This guy's comment. Who the hell's spamming chat? What is this? Ban this kid. How do I ban somebody? Ban. Done. All right. Sorry that. Okay, so this guy's comment is primarily to land my first internship first and foremost. So I guess the default being full stack. Ideally something that's backend infra, preferably with AI deployment domain. What are some key weaknesses with the resume as well as my projects are good and holding me back? Do I frame product well? 2 1, okay. We'll see if they're stat pattern or not. Let's take a look. Okay, mid-tier uni, blah, 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 blah. Oh, let's split that. Okay, a lot of stuff here. You have concepts and courses. I'll just pick one of the 2. Okay, projects, some over here, okay, spell with ASL and platform demo, demo and dates, very good. Okay, I like that. Actually, if you're a first timer, like no experience, I would still probably explicitly put the date. I know some recruiters aren't capable of clicking on GitHub, so I would just put the date there explicitly as well. Let a 3-person team to build, deploy ASL, AI power ASL, blah, 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 okay, blah, 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 okay. You have a demo, so that's probably pretty good. I won't look at your demo, but this being your first project, that makes sense. I think that's good. I would say, like you have, for example, you have your like a throughput here, right? But I don't see accuracy. Wait. Yeah, so like you have gesture recognition. I don't see the accuracy here. So I'd say if you want to advertise that you have this recognition, you got to put the accuracy there. Okay. Redesign REST to stream landmarks, cutting bandwidth by. Okay, cool. Cypress full stack issue reporting system. Java Spring Boot Goes JavaScript. That's a stack for sure. What the heck? Develop the Civic issue reporting issue, Spring Boot, REST, MVC, DI, SQLite, 5,000 reports. Optimize throughput, 24% offloading, heavy duplicate detection, geospatial harvesting, Jacquard text similarity, Go microservice. Optimize throughput by 25%. I won't be picky. I won't be picky, but if I were to be picky, throughput on 5,000 reports doesn't exist. So that's not the right adjective or verb. Optimize. Enhanced report quality data to report quality and data to reduce. Okay, okay. This is similar to this one, no? Credit risk prediction model. Scikit-learn lowercase. XG boost. Another XG boost. Okay, we have percentages here now. File cross validation, grid search. Okay. Wait, what is this? Credit risk prediction model. Okay. Data pipeline. Okay. Then 20% that imputed. That's too technical. I think that's like you have this stuff here which is too technical. Boosted default recall, yeah. So this is a good point. The first point I think this data can go into the last point, and the first point should just tell you what this thing is doing. 3D brain tumor classification. Okay, what's the accuracy? 35% recall, 7% accuracy. Okay. First internship. You have 2 full ML projects and you have 1 that is half ML. Your only full stack one is over here. And what is the front end? Yeah, there is no front end. Your front end is just raw JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Okay, so I would say you're missing a front end. What is this? You have a front end over here. What is the front end here? The front end here is, I don't see a front end here either. You're missing a front end. That's the first thing you're missing. I know you have React over here, by the way. You have React over here. There needs to be a bit more talk on the front end, unless if I click this link over here and this front end looks insanely good, then you're good. But if it doesn't look insanely good, I would say be a bit more explicit about the work you've done on the front end. And I would say again, you could get rid of don't get rid of the projects, but like half the points, no one will care. No one will care because they're not impressive in the ML world, and they don't give you any skills in the full stack world. So I would say for a full stack resume, cut down these points a lot. Elaborate on the front end of these 2 projects. All right, let's take a look. All right. Okay, this guy. All right. All right. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, I wasn't having the greatest of luck getting interviews before for internships. Wondering if I'd actually be able to get more opportunities to interview at bigger tech companies with Shopify on resume now. I've been able to get a return offer, full-time Shopify. I want to keep options open for something better if possible. I managed to do some research on Blind 75, do some questions. Haven't completed any of the more difficult topics. To be fair, only one of my interviews so far have been an LC style one. I also interned at another medium-sized company, which I won't name, between my time at those 2. Oh, yeah, the name's over here. Oh, okay, wait, you didn't put them over here. Okay, between those 2, okay. Route is shortened due to a medical emergency. Additionally, the work was largely mindless work that didn't seem impactful to me. Running a script, blah, 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 blah. Don't care. All right, but it's an experience. 1 bullet point. TA upcoming school year. Done is worth it. Resume, blah, blah, ordering sections. Education, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't matter, blah, blah. Okay, doesn't matter. Okay, so I would say it was mindless work. I would say, how long were you there for? It was cut short. I would say what I would do is I would not put it on, because if it was not cut short, it was just mindless, you can still put it on because it gives you some some experience. But because you have a full-time return offer and because you have because it was cut short, I would just leave that off. So that's one of the few times I would actually say, yeah, leave it off. That's fine. Now, if other people tell you to put it on, that's okay as well. But just be prepared to kind of explain a bit more about what was going on there. So I'd say based on what you told me, that's not going to help your case at all. So just leave it off. Okay, and your other major question was basically the sections. Education at the bottom is totally fine. Sections are fine. This is fine. And let's take a look. Is this a lead code? I don't know what you're asking about lead code. Yes, Shopify will get you bigger names. People, I mean, this is one thing I've been saying for a long time, but the number one correlation of skill is just time and company. Okay, that's TA in the school year. Let me read. I'll read your points and then I'll tell you if that's worth putting on. Blah blah. Okay, and that was your own question. Okay, so let me have a read then. Okay. Fine. 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 60%. That's fine. Okay. That's good. Good. Okay. Blah blah. Okay. Yeah. No. What I would do is I would still put the TA on, but I would just put it over here. So for, I don't know if it looks like your resume has space. It looks like it's not cut off. I would just put TA and then blah blah blah, like the course years, etc. over there. Your points are much better than being a TA, unless your TA is for like a really good class, which it doesn't sound like it is. So I would say your points are currently fine as is, and you're better off just. And by the way, even if you don't put TA on, it's not gonna make or break. I just think putting TA on. Some people, not myself, but some people really care about being involved at your school. So those people see this as a good thing, right? So I would still put the TA on at the bottom if you can fit it in. But yeah, it's not a big deal, no matter what. For DSA, yeah, nobody cares about DSA. 1.5 months, yeah, leave it off. I'm a product of Dookie. Let me have a look again. Load balancer, round robin, blah blah. I'll put dates over here. Dates and GitHub. You know, if just based on this, I can't really tell you much. Yeah, like, I'm not gonna say they're good or bad, but that I wouldn't necessarily remove them for a TA position. Like you could say, for example, that like, okay, get rid of that point. That point's actually pretty useless. And then pick one of these points to get rid of that. 2 points, you can probably fit a TA there. I don't know. Is that worth it? I would just try to squeeze a TA here if you can. I don't think it's really worth trying to clear too much up. I think once you get a full-time experience, then you're gonna redo the entire resume in general, and then at that point, you know, you work at other projects like in general. So, excuse me. So at that point you can redo it, but for right now, for what you have, I think the resume is not really the necessary to optimize. If that makes sense. Targeting new grad for full stack. Yeah, I think that makes sense. You have a lot. I mean, as you said, you know, and by the way, very good of you to recognize that too. By the way, that it is very front end focused or mobile for Shopify. I also saw that, right, Mobile Bridge. But that's fine. A lot, especially in your early career, there are no skills, which is to say that it's still very malleable. A lot of the skills are transferable because you haven't done anything that's too mobile specific or too like niche. So, like again, like yeah, you can obviously do some more projects in the other full stack disciplines, but again, not really a big issue right now. So, don't worry about that. All right, let's see, anything else? Nope, that is all. Okay, so I'm gonna give y'all like 1 minute to submit if there's anything else last minute. Otherwise, I'm going to just cancel. Not cancel. I mean end the resume review. All right, let me see the spreadsheet. No, nobody there. All right, that's all for today. Get out of here.